Hi, everybody. I think this is recording, and so we will get going. Welcome to our Tuesday training for the week that is about a guest. I almost said guest star, guest speaker. And so this week we're talking to Carla Hunter, who is a superstar director from Alberta, one of my good friends. And so she agreed to come and chat with us tonight. So we're just going to go with it. She's got a lot of great info that is always valuable no matter what. So we're just going to chat and see where it goes. So do you want to just introduce yourself and go from there? Tell you a little bit about your story, your Scentsy story.
Sure. My name is, like she said, Carla Hunter. I've been a consultant since, well, the second day and opened October 2nd, 2009. I live in Alberta. So I built most of my business in Fort McMurray. So I was in Fort McMurray for about 13 years. And currently I've been in Beaumont, Alberta, which is near Edmonton, for the last 2 years. I used to actually own a candle company. So I opened my own candle company when my daughter was first born. I was more like a workaholic, so I really needed just something to do with my time. And I don't know how it started. I think I know how. Okay. So I had a friend who gave me a candle as a gift when I was pregnant, I believe. And then when I had my kid, I remember I lit it, and then it was just the most amazing smell I've ever smelled in my entire life. It smelled like cake. And I burnt that candle until it was gone. And then I couldn't find that scent ever again. I used to go into Walmart or in all the shops and just smell all the scents, and I could never find what I was looking for, which then turned into me contacting fragrance companies, ordering their scents, and then it turned into a candle making business is what happened. But I actually didn't find that scent for, oh, it was years and years and years. I spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars trying to find that same scent so I could make it for my company, and never found it until like the last year. So I actually ran that company for 6 years, and then the company just became too big. The next step was actually getting myself into a warehouse. And you know, living in Fort McMurray, it's super expensive. There was no way I could afford a warehouse in that location. So I sold my company. And then what's that?
I didn't know you sold it.
Yep, no, I sold it
Oh,
to a lady in Edmonton.
wow.
So I stayed home for about a year, but during that entire year, I was always looking for more candle stuff. So either I was gonna, I don't know what I was doing, but I was either going to open up a store. I'm sure it was leading towards opening up something, because there was no way I could just stay at home watching kids all day. So I just searched for a whole year, and then 2 months before I found Scentsy, I saw a logo on the internet, and it was a Scentsy logo. So I was like, oh, that's, you know, I just kind of clicked on it, went in and started reading about it. I'm like, oh, okay, that kind of looks neat. And then I started Googling Scentsy and getting more information from other people of actually what it was. And then what I did was I emailed one of the ladies, and her name was Diane Dreher. So I emailed her and just asked her for more information. But what she did was she actually called me. She called me within 2 minutes of the email being sent. So I sent the email, she called me, and it kind of took me back because I wasn't expecting someone to call me. And I don't really like talking on the phone very much. You know, like I just find it awkward, and I really don't like a lot of commotion around me. So when she called me, I was totally taken back. And so I talked to her for about 5 minutes, and I said, she's like, do you have any questions? I'm like, I just got one question. And my question was,
Oops.
does it smell like what the title of the wax is? And so, for example, I said, does baked apple pie smell like baked apple pie? And does your cinnamon bun, smell like cinnamon bun. She's like, yes. I'm like, are you sure? And really, that was the only question I had. I just wanted the scents to smell proper because I was really, really picky. And she said yes. And I'm like, okay. I was like, okay, well, I'll join on October 1st.
So, yeah, so she had told you it wasn't open in Canada yet.
It wasn't open in Canada yet, she said. And obviously the Americans were advertising to Canadians. That's how I found the logo, right?
Oh, okay.
So that was 2 months early, maybe a month and a half or 2 months or so. But she kept kind of following up with me. I think she called me a few times, and I didn't really want to talk to her. I remember allowing the phone just to go to message. I would hear it ringing, and I knew it was her, but I would never answer the phone. But she continued to call me, and I'm just like, oh my God, like, right? So I think I answered the phone 2 times, but she did call me more than that. But it's because she wasn't catching me on the phone, right? So she was calling me to catch me. But I do remember totally ignoring her phone calls and just letting them go to the voicemail. And then a week before it opened, she called me again. And I finally picked up the phone after she called like 4 times. And she said, so are you still, she's still making sure that I was still interested in the company if I had any questions. I'm like, no, I'm going to join. And so October 1st came, and that was when the problems with, we had a brand new workstation, and it opened in Canada. So it was a brand new, we were the first region, like another country to open up. So it's a second part of the website, right? The workstation, and a brand new workstation at the same time. And so nothing worked. So I tried to join about 4 or 5 times. Right when it opened, I even stayed up until midnight, and it didn't work. So I tried about 4 or 5 times, and it wasn't working. So I decided, I thought to myself, well, I thought it was a sign of someone saying you shouldn't do this kind of thing. And so I just didn't join. I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. So I didn't join, and I wasn't going to join again. So on the 2nd, she called me a few times. I remember not answering the phone. And then the last time, I think it was evening, she had called me again. And so I just picked it up. And she said, oh, well, I thought you were joining. I'm like, well, and then I was kind of giving her lots of excuses. This was my excuses. Well, it wasn't working, and I don't know. And I just kind of kept saying a few excuses there. And she's like, well, you know what? It's working fine now. They just had a big glitch yesterday. If you need help, just let me know. If it doesn't work, call me back. And I was like, okay. So actually, when I got the phone with her, I joined right away. So, and that's kind of how I don't think I would have joined under Diane if she didn't keep following up with me. I think that's an important part of the business, and I've always remembered. People can sell to me, and people can recruit me if you are talking to me and if you are, doing your business proper. There's been so many times, and I do a lot of trainings on this, is the follow-up trainings and things. But I'll kind of give you 2 examples. One of them is actually, Diane, how she kind of followed up with me. So now I follow that pattern. I make sure, I asked her for information, right? Yeah. I asked her for the information. So she actually gave me the information. And so she wasn't going to, I was interested in joining. So she wanted to make sure that I joined because I was asking these questions. Yeah, I kind of pushed her off a little bit, but she wasn't overbearing or anything. But she was there to kind of guide me and help me along. But there was another time after I had joined that we used to take my kids to the parking lot all the time. The bus stop.
I was like, okay, I don't know what you do.
So I used to take my kids to the parking lot, oh my gosh. You know what? Every single morning, this is what I do every morning. I make myself a coffee every morning, and I forget to put the cup there. So I have a friend actually staying.
Pours out?
Yes, onto the thing. I have a friend staying with me right now from Fort McMurray.
Yeah.
Every single morning, I don't know why I'm doing this. It's the craziest thing. I forget to put my cup there, and it just starts dripping out. She's like, Carla. Anyway, so I'm kind of
Oh, we all have our things. That's fine.
Mornings aren't good for me. So I used to drive my kids to the bus stop every morning because it's so cold in Fort McMurray. And so everybody did, actually. So the Tupperware lady was always at the bus stop too. So one day she came and knocked on my window, and she knocked on my window. I opened it. She's like, "Oh, here's a catalog for you." And I'm like, "Oh, thank you." And that was it. That was the end of our conversation. So I went home. This is what I did. I went home and I thought to myself, I'm going to switch out my entire kitchen to Tupperware. And I started circling everything in the catalog. But within the hour, I had a $750 order ready to go. I had the order form filled out, ready to go for her to take the order. I was super excited about it. But I'm not going to call her. I'm just the type of person that if you want a sale, you really got to come and get it from me. And I know I'm kind of like that. It's the same. I walk into the brick. If someone doesn't say something to me, I get annoyed and I walk out. Wow. And I'll go to another store.
You would not buy from me then, probably. What? You probably wouldn't buy from me then. So bad at calling.
Yeah, and like if I go into a clothing store, no one helps me. I'll probably go in there, look around, really like things, and probably walk out. But if I have somebody throwing clothes at me, I'd most likely buy a couple $100s and stuff. But what happened was that next day when I went to the bus stop, I did not bring my order form. She did not come back to my window. If she had come back to my window and said, "Hey, how did you like the catalog? Was there anything that you wanted to order?" I would have said, "Yeah, come to my house. I got a huge order for you." But she didn't, and I wasn't the type of person to call and give it to her, right? So she never did her really follow up with me to get that order. And it was just one of those things. The longer as time passed, the less excited I was about ordering it. And so after about 3 or 4 days, I was like, "Oh, what am I doing?" Like you rethink what you're purchasing. And then within a week, I had already thrown it out. So, but I would have ordered it within the first couple of days. But that's just kind of one of the things that I've always put in place is my follow-up, and I have a system of follow-up because that's the type of person I am. So I make sure that I follow up with everybody. Right. But something that I've struggled big time in my entire business has been anxiety. So I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety 7 years when my daughter was 7. Yeah, about 7. So I think I was just starting Scentsy, or I was a little bit into Scentsy when I was diagnosed with that. So I have anxiety in groups of people, actually 3 or more, I would say, is when my anxiety starts kicking in. I have a really hard time speaking in public. I actually have a hard time talking in general, so with anybody. It's actually quite severe, but over time I've been able to practice, I guess I would say. Practice makes perfect, which is so true for me. And I really always, I think what's different with me is that I have the determination factor inside myself. So I'm determined to just do my business and to become successful. So if that makes me, for me to be successful, I have to do my follow-up calls. I have to make a system within my business to that works for me. And what works for me is in the beginning, and I don't have to use them anymore, is script writing. And I get this question all the time. And it's usually by people who don't have anxiety. But people who have anxiety understand where I'm going with this part of any type of training that I do. But the people that don't have anxiety will ask me, well, doesn't it come across fake? Well, yeah, it does. But you work on it and you want to work yourself out of the script, and then you don't need them anymore. And then it doesn't feel fake anymore. So if you feel fake, you just kind of keep doing it. So I have actually a script for everything in my business. A script for calling my team and asking them if they need anything. I have a script for hostess flipping. I have a script for calling my customers. Every part, and I have a script for home parties. So yeah, I did read it off paper before, but I'm the type of person, I'm not fake. So I really try and not make it seem fake. Is that, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I really worked hard on creating scripts
Yeah.
that work for me. And then I kind of worked myself out of scripting.
So with the scripts, when you're in person, like the hostess flipping one, you're not going to pull out a script in person at the home party.
Right.
So
So with that one, I did a lot of script writing for phone calls.
mm-hmm.
So that's where I started, because so most of my scripts were for phone calls for customers, doing follow-up calls, getting people's orders, calling after like a trade show and figuring out those parties and things like that. So that's where the biggest anxiety for me in the beginning was that portion, was actually touching the phone and deciding to myself not to pick it up. I mean, you don't have to have anxiety for that to happen to you. You sit at your office, you touch the phone, and you're like, I don't know what to say. So I actually wrote out what I wanted to say, practiced it for about 5 or 10 minutes, and started calling people. The first ones I started to call was very awkward, and I knew they were awkward, but my thought to myself was, I'm going to call the next person and do better, right? So, but the hostess, I find me one-on-one with somebody is much easier for me, because I decided to start talking from my heart, or the passion I have for the business. Does that make sense? And like, you can speak better when you actually feel what you're saying, if that makes sense, right? So if you have the mentality in your mind is, you know, this is the part of the business that I get, and this is the part of the business that I love, you have to talk about that part, because that's how you're going to recruit people, and that's where you're going to do better trainings. Like I remember in the beginning, God, I was in the business for about 4 months, and Dan had asked me to do world tour talk, and it was probably the worst talk I've ever done in my entire life. I hated every second of it. I never wanted to do it ever again. And then we did, and then I think me and Megan had kind of found each other in Hawaii, and Michelle and Christy and Sherry, who were all superstar directors in Canada. We all found each other in Hawaii, and then we kind of stuck together like glue. And then we started kind of doing trainings in Edmonton, and then I would get up on stage and do those. And it's very difficult for me in the beginning, but you won't learn how to do them if you don't do them.
That presentation that you did in Edmonton was one of my first aha moments.
Which like the
first Edmonton training that you guys did. I came right after the first spring sprint.
Oh, the one.
It was about the stats, looking at your numbers.
Was that in Red Deer?
No, it was in Edmonton at West Edmonton Mall.
Oh yeah, that was the first one that we did.
Yeah.
So yeah, I remember doing that, and how my trainings had kind of got better and better over time was the World Tour one. I fully read it from paper. The one in Edmonton, I can't remember if I read it from paper, but I remember the one in Red. It kind of went from reading from paper to doing PowerPoints and writing everything underneath each point, and then after the trainings, I'd be like, oh my gosh, that sounds so fake. Like it felt to me, it felt like I was reading it. I hated doing it. Like I hated every second of it, because it just didn't come across the way I liked it. And then my trainings turned into PowerPoints with point form. And so I take a point and then I talk about what I know, which works so much better when you do it that way, because you sound more like you know. Yeah. And now I don't even use PowerPoint anymore, and I actually wing everything.
Look at you! I love that.
Craziest thing. So I did. Me and Megan went to Nanaimo and did a training in Nanaimo, BC, and then I did 2 in Newfoundland.
Newfoundland, yeah.
Last month, and I winged the entire thing. I had nothing written.
Wow.
I didn't even sit down and think about what I was going to say.
You didn't have an outline or a agenda?
We had a schedule,
yeah.
And I had my own talk, and I was supposed to talk for 45 minutes, right? And so I wung the whole thing. So I don't have anything written on paper, and if I do have something written on paper, it's probably like 20 words, maybe, at the most.
So what does that make you think now? Like when you are talking to somebody about the benefits from doing Scentsy, and this is the topic for you, that's a big deal of how you've changed. How does it, like, what do you explain it as to them?
Like when they're asking...
Like, do you feel that it's changed other parts of your life because of working on these skills for your Scentsy business? Or...
I feel like when I went through the depression and anxiety, I always felt like I wasn't worthy enough, or I always felt like there was a part of myself that I hated. And even I remember my ex-husband, he used to complain about how I was. And I'm a homebody. I'm a hermit. Everyone tells me I have bitch face. I can't help it. Like, you can't help what your face looks like when it's just sitting there.
It's called resting, bitch.
So,
oh God, I've never thought of you like that, but.
So, I just remember there was just lots of there was a part of me that I always considered myself to be just this boring person that nobody liked. And that's probably why I had a lot of group anxiety, because I'm always thinking about what people are thinking about me. Right? I can look at these people and yeah, they look at my face and then they look at my shirt, and it gives me anxiety because I'm thinking to myself, what am I going to say to this person? This person is probably like I don't know if it's the judgmental aspect of it, but I'm always thinking about the negative things about myself.
You were.
So when I went through my separation with my husband, I decided to take it upon myself just to go to therapy, just to go, because I'm like, this is not going to break my spirit. I'm better than that. I'm going to kind of get through it, whatever, but I know I have to get through the grief period, and I wanted to talk with somebody to get through the grief period. So when I went there, this is one of the things I brought up. I said, she said, I can't remember how it went, but I remember her asking me, what are the 10 things that you like about yourself? And there wasn't anything I could write down. So I went home and I said to myself, you know what? Like, okay. So what I did was I went home and I put 10 things of what I like about myself and 10 things that I don't like about myself. So, and when I went into the therapy, I said, okay, here's my problem. I have 10 things I don't like about myself, and I consider that to be me. Who I am as a person are these people, are these 10 things on this list, right? And then I said, but then I have this business person. And so I considered myself 2 separate people for the longest time. And I'm so glad I went to therapy class, because she said to me, she said, Carla, she's like, you are the good stuff too. She's like, you need to interconnect both those people. Because I wasn't doing that. All the negative things, I always thought of, that's who I am. And all the good things were this business person that has no part in my life on a day-to-day basis.
Because you associate it, it totally does. I think that's a great way of putting it, that you associated it as the business person because you had the strength and the determination through business to be those things.
Right.
So to you it was business, and that I've never even thought of it that way, because I always think about it as this business helps because of exactly that. But I didn't think of it as 2 different people, but it's so true that it helps you change your regular person.
Yeah. Yes.
See that you can do this when the determination helps you be that person.
Exactly. So when I went into the therapy office, she didn't say that in the beginning. She's like, you know what? That's so fun. It's so weird. I've never heard of this before. that you have yourself and a different person, like a business person, are separated in your mind. And so she actually called her people that she's mentored by, right?
Okay.
And they said, yeah, this is like, she's saying she's two separate people, but she's not connecting them. And so when I went in the next day, she's like, Carla, she's like, you are that good stuff. It's part of you. That's who you are. You are good, and the stuff that you don't like about yourself and the stuff that you really like about yourself. She's like, the stuff that you really like about yourself is actually who you are. And I was like, oh my goodness, are you kidding me right now? And so that was a huge epiphany within myself. And now, yeah, I've ever since that talk with that therapist, I like myself now. Like, I like who I am, and I connect with the good part of myself. But I also, like, I'm determined, and I step out of my comfort zone. I make sure I do my business. I call people. I do my follow-ups. All the things that you don't want to do in your business is what makes you successful. And it's actually who you are. You just have to connect yourself back to that as one person. So that's what I've kind of learned within the business, and that's what's helped me. So
you feel that your business has improved as well from being able to connect the two?
Yeah. Well, I think I feel happier with myself, right? And I'm thinking to myself, if people around me don't like the bad things about me, then I don't have to be around them, because I have some great things that some people in my life have never seen before, right? Because it might shine when I'm working. That's the thing.
I think that ties it back to what you were saying before too, in that oh no, I forgot my train of thought. You like yourself. Oh, the being fake part.
Yeah.
You come across as more real the happier you are, because
Right.
your business person may have been very passionate about Scentsy as a great opportunity,
Right.
but if you weren't happy, you didn't have that full connection to really help somebody see what this business could do for them in all aspects, not just financially or being home with your kids or whatever.
Yeah.
And I found that I've gone through phases, and some of that just comes with changes in life. I mean, you and I have a lot in common with the depression and the divorce and all of that stuff. And so my business, while it was there for me, while I could step back and focus on the things I needed to focus on, it's also shown me that I do have to make that conscious effort to get back into it, because it can be easy to just start riding the comfort zone.
Yeah.
And for me, it's about organization and doing those follow-ups and stuff. That's my comfort zone, is I stay away from doing those things. And so that determination is probably like the number one keyword to drive anything, no matter whatever your skill is that you need to be better at. You got to get the determination behind it. And so that's, I think, why we talk about goal setting and vision boards. And like, you naturally have the determination, but how do you teach it to your team?
I don't think you really can. I think you are determined or you're not. And you have choices. You can either do the activities that make you succeed, or you can shy away from them and never do them and never succeed.
And make excuses.
And always say to yourself, I can't find any new customers. No one wants to buy from me. It's always negative self-talk. But my whole philosophy in this business is keep doing it until you get results. Like, I think I'm a result-orientated person. And so if I went to a party and I didn't book a party from that party, I'm not thinking to myself, oh my gosh, like, I hate parties. Well, I do hate parties, but but I don't think I leave the party thinking to myself, that game didn't work for booking parties, so I need to change it. So I'm sort of like definitely result orientated. So if something didn't work, I'm going to go home and change it. So instead of going on Facebook and saying, I did this party and I got no sales, you know what? Maybe it's because you need to do a better party, or maybe it's just because your hostess just didn't work her tail off to help you, or maybe it's because you didn't do hostess coaching,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe you could just do something better.
Yeah.
So kind of go back home and rethink your parties, maybe do better displays or whatever
Mm-hmm.
you need to do. Maybe you need to do a better presentation, but kind of just go back home and think about what happened and then change it. So I'm constantly changing things. And what works at one party may not work at another. So you
Well,
just kind of
yeah.
live and learn and kind of keep going. I mean, I had a dud party a couple months ago.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well,
I
that's the key to it too, is that recognition that just keep going.
mm-hmm.
That it's always going to happen. You're going on 7 years this fall, right?
Yeah,
And we get duds, we get recruits that tell us forever and ever and ever that, yep, I'm joining. We all get it. The only difference about us is that we keep going
yeah,
and don't let that stop us. Like, oh, I can't do parties after one bad party.
right.
So that's awesome. We're over the half an hour, and I know that for people that have time to watch it, we should probably stop it here. But I'm very excited for tonight with everybody able to ask you questions, whether it's based on some of the stuff we've been talking about today or even stuff they've heard about you, or just want to ask you. We have a lot of new people in my group, which is exciting, and why I love that we're doing these new trainings because, that was one of my goals, was to reset the way I was doing training and be able to really get the momentum going with these newer people that are already excited instead of trying to get people excited that didn't have that
Right.
training piece from me for a while. So we've got a lot of really exciting people that come on every Tuesday and have some good questions for you. So
Okay.
thanks for watching, guys, and thank you, Carla.
You're welcome.
Bye.